Welcome. If you're here to watch another Ronin Radio podcast, thank you. I wanted to just give you a heads up on this one. We are interviewing Rare Axies from Tribally Games, the guy who does all of the greatest GMs you've been seeing over the last year. I think it's best to say that we had a lot of technical difficulties during this recording, so I want to make that abundantly clear right now. I'm sorry, but you're making me stronger. I'm getting better, I'm trying, but Lord help me, I had no control over this. And also that the conversation with Rare was stemmed largely around his life before Web3 in the beginning. It was very interesting to find out that Rare was such an accomplished human being as well at large. I know that, like, I'm not trying to be patronizing anyway. He's a great fucking guy, and that's what I have to say after listening to the conversation. But first, you must listen to it yourself. So I'll leave you to it. I hope you enjoy. And remember, every Thursday, we're live, Twitter Spaces. Come and chill with us. All right, enjoy. Peace. Welcome. We're back with another interview with the Ronin Radio Podcast. I've got the one and the only GM Godfather. I don't know what else to call you, but like, if you don't know, then get to know. Rare Tribally, Mr. GM himself. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, bro.
I suppose I should start with GM.
Yep.
Appreciate that intro. Feeling the love. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite, etc., etc.
Yeah. Now, of course,
we've just done an hour's podcast before you've actually hit record.
Yeah, we had a combo for a minute without me hitting the record button, but I've got so much that I would like to know. I think maybe more than Rare has time for as well. But I think that's the perfect place to start. Every day you wake up and you tell Twitter GM in some of the most amazing ways. You've humored most of my year. It's something I actually look forward to when I open up my phone in the mornings. Like, I guess where I want to start is asking, where did it come from? Like, is it just, I know GM is like a thing that happens in the crypto community, but like, you definitely took it to the next level. Maybe describe or explain the story of how you thought it out. Has it turned out the way that you thought? And yeah, I guess on that, how do you feel the GM is resonating with the community, and how are you enjoying it?
So you'd love it to be some kind of like big brain marketing really. I think it's just mild OCD.
Yeah.
So I did a GM tweet. I think it was the end of September last year, and I just enjoyed doing something slightly different than just posting GM.
Mm-hmm. It was the face cut out, right? It's like I think that's what I vividly remembered the first time. It was just, I met you, and then the next thing I saw on Twitter was that face with a GM post, and I was like, that's kind of cool, because it was like pasted onto something else, and then you just were commonly pasting it from scenario to scenario and making it into memes. They're actually fantastic.
I appreciate that. It was. I've been saying, kind of like been typing GM, and I don't know how long for. And I was just like, I wish I could make this more creative. So then I started, and I see this all the time now, where, you know, I'll put GM to people who do A, B, or C, and try and make it kind of relevant to whatever's going on in Web3 or crypto Twitter, or maybe even just general news, depending on what it is. And then I did the first one, which I hadn't really anticipated being anything more than a one-off. I did the Taken, like the Taken speech.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for, you know, whatever it might be. And I changed the word slightly, and I was like, I really like this. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could put like a picture of Liam Neeson
on the phone.
And I was like, if I paste my head big enough, I could hide his head. And I was like, oh, and it went down relatively well.
Yeah, a lot of love.
Really meant to be, yeah. It really was just meant to be a way of, you know, 'cause to me, Twitter is like, it's my job, right? It's networking with people within Web3, and anything that gets some kind of engagement from people in the space is always
what a great job. I must say what a beautiful job, mate.
I don't know how that happened. But and I thought I might do this tomorrow, so the first one was, it was 20th of October. Just having a quick look, and I did it the next day, and I was like, all right, maybe I could do a few more of these. Didn't do one for a few days, and then I thought, you know what? There's only a week left in October. I wonder if I could just do one every day for the week, which is kind of coming back to, you'd love it to be a genius marketing strategy or it was just, can I do it for the week? And then I was like, well, I've done it for the week. Let's just do November. Managed to get November out of the way, and I found myself in this like space where every Sunday I was spending a couple of hours just thinking about
just planning the week ahead.
Planning my GM tweets for the week, and I was in like a really like cool creative space. I really enjoyed, as daft as it may sound, I was spending an hour or two on a weekend, doing these. Thinking them was kind of the easy part, and then because my Photoshop skills are non-existent, actually
shout out to Canva.
Difficult. Well, Canva, I got to this point where I was using Canva, a website called Background Remove, and basically a brush that hides things. And the idea was, if a person in the original graphic has hair, my head would have to be giant in order to cover. But yeah, we got through November, and I was like, I wonder if I could do this for a year. And I think I'm 100.
Yeah, you were deep, very deep into the mix now. I guess like you said it there anyway, that you enjoyed it. It was something fun to do, and I guess that kind of in all aspects, not just focusing on the GM tweets itself and marketing strategies, whatever. But I think if you find that sense of enjoyment, it kind of it becomes something that you just second nature. You can do it. I think now you've kind of found a flow state. I don't know why my camera's frozen right now, but you found a flow state where I'm gonna get it back. You found a flow state where I mean, I guess it might come, absolutely rugged. It might come naturally to you now, where you just, what's happening in the scene? Quick, I know how to make a GM post from that.
I was actually going to say complete opposite almost. So I have been really struggling with inspiration for them since I'm going to say the middle of maybe January, where I'll sit down on a Sunday morning with coffee and be like, I need some GM. And I'm like, I've used every meme, every film, every sitcom, every television advert. I have used everything I can think of since the history of time, and already pasted those kind of creative sessions have almost become a burden, where I'm like, and this goes back to something you mentioned on last week's Ronin Radio, which was, by the way, I'm actually now just looking at a blank screen, so whether or not you're still here, I have no idea.
I'm coming back. Something's happening.
You said something on Ronin Radio, which was, and I think it was Cairo, mentioned kind of people put these like weird expectations on themselves. Where
it was actually G-Host. Yeah, it was G-Host.
Yes, you're right. It was. I think I can't remember if it was G-Host that was responding to Cairo, but G-Host really said it made a really good point, and then disappeared off into another meeting, I recall. But I was listening to his point on the way back from, I was actually in Birmingham, been to meet Matt DeFi's,
amazing,
and Axie OG. And I was listening to it in an Uber, and I was like, that's a really, really, really good point. And I thought to myself, if I actually just don't say GM for a week, would anyone even notice? Maybe. But the pressure is kind of unnecessary. So what I've started doing now is I just carry a notebook, and every now and again I'll be like sitting in traffic, I'll be in the gym, and I'll be like, 5 ideas will just come out of nowhere, and then I'll get home and I'll kind of do them as quickly as I can. I'm also using it as an opportunity to try and improve my skills. So this is something we were speaking about. Well, we've spoken about this previously, about just like learning like new skills and trying to like level up your game. So for me, I've got to a point now where I can kind of do really basic stuff in Canva, which potentially means I could take a little bit of the workload off. And I can't replace Amy in a UI or UX sense. It's just never going to happen. But I could potentially not have to bother Amy or Lisa for certain things, like memes for tweets and stuff. I can do that myself now, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can edit kind of more complicated photos. At the moment, it's basically if the person's head is too big or they've got too much hair, I can't use that picture. I've got to find a different base picture.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's definitely more like using AI. If I was about to say, there's people in the community that could 100%. You could even use stable diffusion and train a model to put your head or your face into different scenarios. But I've rugged crazy here with this cam. I'm trying to figure. We're gonna have post edits, so if you bear with me for like 5 seconds, well, not 5 seconds, but I'm gonna sort this out. This will get scrubbed out and we'll jump back in.
It wouldn't be Ronin Radio without technical glitches.
Bro, it's like someone's just laughing somewhere on the internet, thinking, like, oh, let's go and log into this computer today and fuck his shit up. I'm gonna plug the camera out and in everything right now. Ah, Lord.
You've turned it off and on. Stuff's getting serious.
Yeah, that's what you gotta go back to basics sometimes, because it's just. I think I've got too many applications open and it gets confused. Google wouldn't let me do it directly through the cam, so I had to do it through NVIDIA, and just nonsense. And
great.
They're fun.
Time.
They're really fun.
I downloaded a football game I've been trying to test lately, and I've had to use my Windows laptop to play it.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it, plugged in the controller, and the right thumbstick was the runaround control. I was like, what? So I pinged them and I was like, quite literally 30 years of my life I've been playing football games and it's always the left stick to run around.
Oh, no. Wait. I've only just registered what you've said. That's disgusting.
And I was like, is there any way I can change this? And they're like, oh, yeah, you've got to download this other application that allows you to like remap your buttons. I was like, that's
no. Yeah, that is put the game to the side and wait till the updates come, because there's so many barriers and hurdles for adoption that I think that's what like a lot of Web3 faces right now, isn't it?
We talk about and I don't want to go off script here, but we talk about like some of the like problems people face when they're playing games, and that to me, I find PC gaming itself has quite a high barrier to entry. Like first of all, you need a certain spec of computer, and then it's not like on the most part an iPhone or a browser game where I can just press something and I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
There's things to download, there's drivers to update.
Yeah.
Then me to get in the game and the controls are quite literally back to front. I was just like, this is not the extra level of complexity that
you were at the point of like, I am 100% about to now have this experience, and it was just rugged right beneath you. Yeah, I could relate. I probably would have put it down as well. I don't even think I would have gone to ask how do I change the control. I would have just said, no, you lot thought the right stick was the one. It is not. I'll let you know in the future when you updated it, or at least in game have an option to switch that. Like,
football is definitely a genre which is horribly underserved right now.
Oh, I don't know if you're referring to the game Goals, because I saw it on Twitter, and I don't want to put them on blast or anything like that, but like it's so difficult, because like we've been given FIFA, and I mean even me personally, like, as a kid playing FIFA, yes, it was exhilarating. It was like, oh my god, we can play football on a console, but I still don't think even like the most recent FIFAs, like, it still don't feel like football. Like it's still missing that little bit extra, and so I think to take that genre up as a Web3 game, as like a small studio developers, is like an absolute mammoth of a task.
So you're correct, it is Goals, and I specifically didn't mention them because I'm really optimistic and want them to succeed. But
yeah, same. After looking at it and the marketing and those things, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
I mean, I've met the team. I think, do they have the qualities required to succeed? I think so. But then I think every game in Web3 probably does. Will they all succeed as a consequence of that? Almost certainly not. I gave them some early feedback on some of like the visual mechanics, like the way like the ball was hitting the net and bouncing back and stuff that just didn't didn't. I mean, it may make sense if you just put it into a basic physical model that ball hits the net and bounces out, but a net absorbs a ball, and unless you're pinging the ball at some obscene speed, it's not bouncing out of the net.
Yeah. I just think it's so hard, bro. Because look at the you've got to get to here, and
it's tough. It's really tough, and I was really genuinely disappointed when I plugged my controller in and it was just back to front.
Yeah,
it's like, that's really deflating. Like, I'm so optimistic to play this game, and I will download this, whatever it is I need to download, and give it another play.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that, not to confuse, it's not FUD, right? I would love them to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
But I was genuinely disappointed that the controls were, for me, the wrong way around.
Yeah.
It's miles better than other football games.
There's no model that's even close, I don't think. So
I played some horrific demos in the last 2 years.
You've been experimenting, right? Like, is that something that's like a requirement for you now? Obviously, gaining that information, connecting and networking with other developers and teams that are working in Web3. Like, so on a weekly basis, you're pretty much out trying to try games.
Yeah, trying to try games and trying to kind of meet the communities that are being built around them.
Anything close to Axie? Anything even close? Anything remotely close?
Yeah, so Axie is without question miles ahead of anything else that's kind of claiming to be the number one Web3/NFT game. Yep. Just little things like there was an update today. I don't know if you noticed, when you do everything's a slight iteration. So now when you complete the daily or the weekly quests, it actually flags up along the side that you've done it. Whereas before it was just a block of text on the bottom. It's every time we go back, there's a slight improvement, and they're just making these small improvements. And over time, it's a completely different beast. I mean, I'm bad at Axie. I'm
bad now as well, bro. I'm with you. We just finished Epic Era. I finished 27,000th. That's my worst finish in Axie ever.
That's tough. That's
ever. So I didn't really try to be fair, but that is my worst finish.
Seasons 6, 13, 14, 15, when there weren't. This is prior to massive
V2 days, yeah.
player numbers. I think the best finishes we had, best finishes something like 21st. I think Lev finished top 200.
Mm-hmm.
I think I finished top 1,000, but don't quote me on that. After that, my highest finish was actually top 5,000 with the team that you and Casper gifted me.
Oh, yeah.
But the season just finished. The era just finished. I think I was 12, 13,000. I found it really
hard.
I'm really struggling. I was actually going to tweet just before this call, but I didn't have time.
Yeah,
I'm really struggling with the mechanic at the minute. I've just unlocked the Venom, the three energy cost.
Venom Burst. So you get Venom Master, the rune, and you get Venom Burst with it.
And I've been trying to work out the optimal time to play it seems to be when you can kill one Axie and split the poison. So as soon as you can, so it's 8 times table. I'm constantly doing something times 8.
Yeah.
But I seem to notice that whenever I do that, I lose. So I've actually been winning more not using it. So obviously not using it correctly.
Yeah.
But
it's very difficult. I think what's happened with Origins now is that there was a real war cry early in Origins, especially back end of 2022. I led some of the charges. It was an agenda of mine to really talk about the openness of competition. I wanted the game to be able to have somebody who had $100 still have some form of feeling competitive, not being $100 being completely accessible to be the number one player in the season. If on average the top 1% was spending much more, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about just having an more open competitive game, and I think they've definitely worked towards that. And and you're literally seeing it. Challenger, which is the top end of competition, is now a pool of 2,000 plus players, which again Mystic era starts now, which is another 2 weeks. So you'll see that pool widen even further. You'll probably see maybe 5,000 to 7,000 players all in Challenger at the end of the season. So they're achieving these things, and it's difficult because it's hard to displace yourself from it. When you're putting feedback into Twitter or into the ether or whatever, you kind of only take your own experiences. You're like, why is this like this? This does too much. I'll lose to this. But you don't really take a step back and look at like the journey that's happening here. We've gone from a completely pay to win element game to now you actually have the ability to use some of the tools available to be really competitive, and that pool is widening out. I think right now you could have spent like $30 to $50 on the Axies themselves when the supply was there, before it was a thing. Because you got to understand, when people become successful with it, it's obvious that more people are going to have demand for that thing. You were able to use that. You got the trips. You use a starter Axie to get one of the runes. Then you have Glorious Main and a simple beast Axie that just had triple Nutcracker, and you were able to at least get into like top 1000s. And that was something that was unheard of before. You'd have had to spend X amount. You'd need Endless Anger for an Ethereum or something like that. So there's definitely positives that have happened in it. So I'm very happy to see that. But at the same time, yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's like, what is going on?
You can't. I really feel for the people who are responsible for these balancing updates, because it's like they just cannot win.
I think that's the point, though. I don't think they're in their point. Their job is not to be right or to win. Their job is literally to take us on this journey so that we can get closer to a more rounded view of things. So, but people don't really take that view. So it's important to communicate it as well.
It's an interesting dilemma that they have, because kind of meta, whatever game you look at over the years, there's always a meta. Like you tell me any, say, Call of Duty from like 2010 to about 2016, I'll tell you what the go-to.
There was something,
what perks, what attachments,
even to like movements like snaking and things like that. Like,
there's just just every game had its quirks. Like Modern Warfare 2, if you ran along a wall, you'd run faster than if you ran not on a wall. And that wasn't wall running. It was just like, and every game had like a meta that the top players would be using, and no one, yes, people would grumble, that class is overpowered, or but people would use other classes for fun and enjoyment, and if they really wanted to win, they'd have their try hard class. But when someone like Infinity Ward or Treyarch would patch something, there would be community uproar. Oh, this is too strong. This is too weak. The difference being, in games like that, everyone has access, or they did.
Yeah.
So much now, everyone has access to everything.
The same things, yeah.
So, but with Web3 and certainly with Axie, when they're patching things, they're affecting some people but not others. And vice versa. So
the ownership conflicts, it's the worst thing. It's like the thing that you want, and the glorified factor is also the limiting factor to certain elements of the game. So it is honestly it's a struggle. It's a struggle that I believe will require, obviously it is requiring time. But like I said, that's why I believe the balance team's job is to take us on that journey to most effectively gather the correct data, opinions, and test the correct things or the incorrect things to eventually get us, closer to some type of level grounding. So, it's interesting. I don't want to harper too much on the Axie thing, because two absolutely dog shite players on the screen right now. Shout out to you. I'm sorry to say that for you, but it is what it is. I want to move on to some topics that are a bit more personable to you. I know, most people, they've seen the face because of the GMs, but they don't really know. They don't really know kind of too much maybe about Tribally Games as a company, about your role in Tribally Games and what you really do. I did some research. I do like to do a bit of background checking before I do interviews, because there's parts of me that I do like to branch out further than just talking about games. There's a bigger picture always, and I'll read off some accolades that I was extremely impressed by. I really I was kind of taken back by it. Reading about how your involvement with the real estate industry and becoming one of the first or the first, if quote, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, to utilize virtual tours in a website. I did some research on that technology as well, and it was about the actual website format in terms of the way that the website operated. Certain websites could manage it and display it in the way that was usable as a company to actually provide virtual tours. So one of the first in the UK to do that, which obviously led to some success for yourself. I saw ambassador role to Peter Jones Awards, and also other awards like the Small Business Awards in the UK. Like these are huge things, and like completely under the radar to me. I had no idea until I did the deep dive, but quite a fruitful and full past. I just think a very full past. You've done a lot already.
Fruitful is definitely a word that works.
Yeah. Well, hey, I don't know. That's why I'm gonna ask you the question. Like, talk to me about that journey. I do want to go further, but first and foremost, kind of like. Yeah, how, like, was that the time period or the thing that changed a lot for you, that kind of put you into this position of this developing websites and applying new forms of technology to industries is something that is extremely valuable, and I'm good at it, so I'm gonna that's what I'm gonna try and dedicate most of my work professional life towards.
So you have to forgive my football relevance here, but or my football reference, I should say, but we have joked that if I were a footballer, I would be the N'Golo Kante of Tribal.
Okay, yeah.
Or maybe that's a bit overselling it. Maybe like the Ashley Young, like the utility player that kind of fills in where needed.
I'd go Kante with that one. I love Ashley Young, beautiful tech, but like we'll go with Kante because that's like a workhorse, right? To give everyone context here, like N'Golo Kante was one of the greatest centre mids in the Premier League at a certain point, because he was just, his engine didn't stop, and he would put a team on his back, and where he was needed, he would be there. And so that gives you a reference of what the fuck Rare is talking about when he says N'Golo Kante.
And I'm sorry to continue the football reference even further, but so Leicester City famously won the league, I think, in 2016.
Yeah.
And their formation was Danny Drinkwater down the middle and N'Golo Kante on both sides. Like that influence he had.
Drinkwater couldn't even run anyway, so like N'Golo Kante had to be there. So
we signed him, and he was the worst player I've ever seen wearing claret and blue. But anyway, enough on football. So, and that kind of makes sense, because if you look at say Best, he has spent 20 years building a career specifically in tech, right? His prior role, he was a CTO at London-based fintech. Running tech teams is his whole work life.
Yeah,
which because he followed the kind of the normal graduate, go into a graduate position and kind of work your way through layers of management until we get to the top, and that's kind of a traditional career path, and he's executed it really well. I did the complete opposite. I had a job lined up for graduation. Was supposed to be going into mergers and acquisitions with a company called KPMG. I'd worked there for a number of years, actually. I actually did a 12-month graduate program with KPMG before I went off to university to get a degree, which meant I basically wasn't qualified to do the program.
Yeah.
But they didn't raise it until the very final interview. At that point, it was like, well, we've said no to everyone else. You might as well come and do 12 months here. And the reason I ended up not going down the kind of the traditional path is just as we were graduating, for I think definitely the second year in a row, but possibly the third year in a row, we just got messed around by our student landlord. It wasn't the landlord, it was the letting agent that was sitting in the middle, basically just ripping off fees.
Yeah.
And I'd always had a real interest in business, in entrepreneurship. I'd studied, as many modules as I could on starting a company. My economics degree kind of segued into a business degree and business and marketing degree towards the end. And just everything kind of happened at the right time. I had the interest. I'd just done some kind of courses on it, so it was fresh in my mind. There was a problem that I felt I could solve.
Yeah.
There was something that was going on at the University of Warwick, which was called the Enterprise Fellowship Scheme, which was it was like a 10 grand startup grant and some office space, and access to kind of networks and resources to help people start a business. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna try and do something about this. And all of the research showed that if you're a startup and you fail, you will probably fail within the first year. So I said to KPMG, look, this is a real tough decision, but it's something I'm going to try and pursue. However, I'll probably be back in a year.
In a year, yeah. just save this place, leave the door open at the back, and I might sneak in later. Yeah. And
in fairness to them, they were like, we appreciate you telling us. Hopefully it works well, but if not, you know where we are. It was a situation where I could have called someone within human resources, found out what opportunities are available, rather than start from square one. Graduate. The way graduates have to apply for jobs at like the big four accountancy firms, investment banks, engineering firms, all the it's ruthless.
I was going to say, you've got people clamoring over each other,
and they're massively oversubscribed. There'll be thousands of people going for a single job. So having that kind of personal relationship was great, and sort of gave me a bit of a safety net. Very, very quickly, it was clear what I needed to do. And when I started the company, I got the marketing all wrong. In my head, it was about something called information asymmetry, which was an economics term, which basically means that the people selling a certain product have way more information on it than the people buying. And what that tends to lead to is, and I'm going back 20 years economics theory here,
the people who are paying probably undervalue it than the people who are selling it. So you want the symmetry for them to meet.
You get like a loss of utility, and the way to solve it is better information. And probably the way it's been best solved in recent years is Auto Trader. So if you go back 20 years, if you were trying to buy a car, I bought my first car out of a newspaper.
I actually bought my car on Auto Trader, the first car actually. So yeah.
And then as the internet's come along, you've got videos, you've got reviews. People now have better information about who they're buying from, what are they buying, priced fairly. And that's to some extent happened with houses as well. Well, I say to some extent it has happened with houses now. But really for me, while I got the kind of the message all wrong initially, the whole point was, if you were a student and you were looking for houses, which is something you had to do every single year, and every university was the same, so it affected a huge number of people across the country. But students were like, despite the fact they paid really high rent, because if you took like a 4-bedroom house in Leamington Spa,
the price for that space right now is all the way through the roof, by the way, because Leamington Spa is supposed to be like the tech capital of UK right now, and startups and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of investment from like Tata, who own Jaguar Land Rover these days, I think. So there's a lot of people moving here from overseas, and but anyway, back at the time, if you had a 4-bedroom house on your ordinary street, it wouldn't be a 4-bedroom house. It'd be a 2-bedroom with a lounge, dining room, and a kitchen downstairs. It would be £700-800 a month. People cottoned on that you could block off the dining room and have a bedroom. You could split a big bedroom upstairs into 2 bedrooms. All of a sudden, you've got a 4-bedroom student house for £1,200 a month. Like, so students are like paying double the rent, but they're treated like just complete dirt, which made no sense to me. So I'm only going to go to the nicest houses, and then I'm going to do what no one else is doing, which is, instead of just, if you were a student and you walked into a letting agent and went, I'm here for the student housing, because they get released kind of at the same time every year, they'd literally throw a piece of paper at you with a list of houses and be like,
have a pick.
Yeah. Go and, if you get to walk around, great. If not, well, tough. But you need to make a decision, because they'll all be gone by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I was like, this whole system is wrong. So that's where the virtual tours came from. It started off as photos, and then I realized that there was software where you could and this is all obsolete now. It's kind of been
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Now you've got Google Street View in houses, so you can just walk around them, which is really what it was. It was a floor plan, and you could put a picture on it, so you could go to whatever room in the house, and you could see a few pictures. And I was like, is there a better way? And you might be thinking, well, why don't you do videos? Well, because video, back then, like a video that was a minute long in any resolution that was visible to the human eye was like 500 megabytes, and that would take a week to upload. So video wasn't, this predates the iPhone. So it was all web based. No one was viewing this on a mobile. So the virtual tours was like the next thing, and it was a chore doing it. And obviously in a startup, you kind of have to do everything sometimes. I'd gone from like 0 houses, on day one to over 200 houses that I was managing. And I was going around all these houses with it was called a fisheye lens. So you'd have to go into every single room
and do like a 360.
Well, it had like this tripod which had like a 180-degree swinging arm on it. So you put it on there, you'd click it, you'd flick it round, you'd click it, and then you had to make sure you'd got both pictures, because if you then got back home and you didn't have both pictures for one room, it was, and it was incredibly fiddly. But before long, people appreciated that extra information, and all of the houses I had initially were let really quickly. People knew what they were getting into, like, because there was no mad scramble, people running around town trying to find houses. And then I started to build a kind of a community off the back of that. So what did students want? Well, they wanted convenience. So it was, you find your house online, you reserve it online, you don't even need to view. Well, that was one thing. When you come to move into a student house, one of the biggest faffs is trying to sort out your gas, electric, your water, your broadband, because you'd move in 1st of September. And if you didn't do anything prior to them, which you couldn't because you didn't have the keys, you wouldn't have your broadband until maybe middle of October, which of course
affects study and everything.
Really it was about trying to stream films, off DC++ or other sites that I definitely didn't use. So it was getting the broadband, so getting the bills all included and all set up from day one. And then I was like, well, I've got all these students. This is quite an interesting angle. So I started going to like local bars, nightclubs, cafes, and be like, look, every single person that rents a house through my company has basically has a key ring with the company logo on it. And the idea was, and the key ring had utility. It was one of those pound coin things that you could put into a trolley.
Oh, in the trolley, yeah.
So every trolley in Leamington Spa that got stolen between 2005 and 2010 had my key rings in it, which was great.
You mass criminal. By the way, a trolley is a shopping cart for you American sausages, all right?
And because we're all thieves in England, they don't just leave them around. They have to secure them to the back of another one.
Yeah.
The only way to do it is to put a pound coin or a pound coin shaped thing into it. So all of a sudden you had everything was done online. All bills and everything was set up and included from day one. Your key ring would get you queue jump. It would get you 20% off food. It would get you, perks within the local.
Did you go to like the universities and like talk about, okay, this is what's going on? Can we offer these perks to these people that have like the key ring? Is that like something you went and? Cause that's.
So I did do some talks at universities, but it was about so the business didn't fail in year one, right?
Yeah.
Which was quite rare, to be honest, considering when you look at all the stats for like business failure, not only do most businesses fail within the first year, the businesses that have been set up by people who are young and therefore inexperienced tend to be, the higher percentage of that.
Yeah.
So I did do some talks at universities on kind of how to do startups and what I'd learned from it. But in terms of going to talk to them about the perks, no, I was actually doing that in the kind of the local level, if you like. So University of Warwick, it did have, and I don't know if it still does, it did have the biggest students union in the country, and there was like 5 bars in there, restaurants. So I went to those on kind of an individual basis rather than to the university themselves. But where it became interesting was as kind of scaled out from Warwick, Coventry, Nottingham, Trent, Birmingham City. I just got into Bath and Bristol. Those benefits were then all of a sudden valid across multiple
That's sick.
Multiple regions, which was, it wasn't something I set out to do, but indirectly.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's actually very powerful when you think about it, like early days community building, and I think it stems in, you revealing that story as well. Like one of the things I wrote down beforehand was like, it's kind of like so transferable into Web3 today, because essentially it was, like I said, taking your ability to utilize tech and the advantages that it could presenting it in a different way, and then also building community around that and providing perks, and like a lot of what Web3 is kind of doing that to the financial industry and the freedom of economic spend. So like taking those things into it, isn't it? Yeah, like you take a lot of those lessons to kind of help. Obviously it might be subliminal, but it's really prepared you to be in these types of industries. So do you see similarities from like things that have developed tech wise and changed the way businesses have operated there, and then like at the same way in Web3? But the one question I would like to ask about that though, if you do see that, like how much more at scale do you think Web3 is in terms of its effectiveness and how much it could actually change?
Well, I think I'm answering the question. I'm definitely answering. Well, this is something that came into my mind when you were speaking a minute ago about kind of like about Web3 communities, and I actually think that Web3 is almost like the perfect affiliate referral marketing monster. Because if you look at say a Web2 company, you've got the builders or the business owners. They may or not be the investors or the financial backers, and they're almost certainly not going to be the users. So you've got three kind of distinct categories of three entities, if you like, that are involved with any given business, and they may not necessarily have incentives that align. So the owners might want profit max, the business owners might want vanity metrics like sales, profit, following on social sites, and the users want a cheap, high quality product. So they're not necessarily, aligned incentives. They may conflict with one another. In Web3, you can kind of squash those three categories into a single category, which is community. So your game or your project's community is your team. It is your financial backers and is your users. There is some possibility that there are overlaps there between two or maybe even all three of those. And the reason I think that makes like Web3 like the ultimate kind of referral scheme, if you like.
It's a beast.
You can, if you have a community, say Axie, people can share within the success of that community through, don't hate me, please, like SLP and AXS over time, and staking yields and so on and so forth. As a consequence, the community almost becomes like the biggest like sales force, if you like, for Axie themselves, because they, the team want Axie to succeed, the users want Axie to succeed, the financial investors want Axie, because technically through Web3 tokenomics and so on and so forth, they're all same. It
is like a incentive alignment, isn't it? That's kind of what one of the superpowers of Web3 is, and like I'm actively seeing that, I'm experiencing it. I'm 100% coming to Axie as a user, from a position of I couldn't even afford to enter Axie. I was a scholar, and because of my incentives aligning with Axie as a company and Sky Mavis as a company, I've been able to kind of grow towards what would be looked at today as like some kind of position of involvement or influence in some way, shape or form. Like I actively want Axie to be more commonly known. I actively want there to be more value there. I want more people to be aligned with that, which is exactly what Sky Mavis would have always been wanting. And if both participants can benefit from that, it makes sense why it galvanizes so well. I don't know. Go on.
Ronin Radio significantly in the last
couple of weeks. You know what I did? I quit my job. I can't do it anymore, man. I don't know what the world is doing. I don't know what's, I go to work anywhere and I just feel like, what is the point of me what is the point? It doesn't feel, I don't feel a part of anything. I don't feel invigorated. I don't feel like I'm living. So, it's at the point that I'm at right now. I might come back to this interview at a later date and think, Jesus, you were really risking it for the biscuit, mate. But I don't see any other purpose at the moment, any other driver. I'm adamant that what we see with Web3 eventually will be painfully obvious to the majority. We could get into political conversations and some real nasty topics that are a reality, that could be resolved with some of the elements of the tech itself, the transparency, those types of things. And I'm just, there is not a thing that you could say that will convince me to believe that it's not going to happen. I am 100% a believer that this is the way the financial industry will have to pivot, and the people will either force that to happen or, kill us all. I really don't see another option. I know that's sadistic to talk about in that manner, but I made that analysis for myself at the start of the year and said, right, listen, if that is truly what I believe, and I don't go and attack it at this time and this age, when else would it be right to do so? So that's what I've done, and we're making baby steps. To be honest, we've leveled it up, yes. I'm a perfectionist, so there's elements of it that I've still we ain't doing shit yet, but more is to come, and just know that obviously you can probably tell, but it has all of my focus and all of my drive at the moment. So, but I enjoy to conversing on these levels. I find out more about other people, the world itself, and just apply it all. I think every day I just wake up and it's what do I do today? Well, I'm gonna just learn some more stuff and then just become more effective. That's basically it.
I think you touched on a really important point there about, I had a phase like this. It went on for about 4 years where I was doing something, and I just didn't feel I was like, what's the point? Why am I turning up to do this? I don't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. For me, to kind of cut out a large section of my life, I ended up transitioning from running the student rental business to I was running what was essentially a finance brokerage where we were providing loans to help people, purchase mostly cars, vans, mm-hmm. that kind of thing, minibuses, any kind of commercial transport. And the reason I didn't enjoy it is I wasn't solving a problem. Whereas with the housing thing, it was absolutely a problem was being solved, which was students were not respected or valued in any way. And actually finding accommodation for them was hugely difficult. And then once you found the accommodation, just organising stuff. So it was just a much smarter way of doing that. And it was genuinely solving a problem. And that's why it grew really, really quickly. With the money lending, we were doing it better than anyone else. And we'd found a loophole basically to work with companies who didn't have the necessary size or financial clout to be regulated entities. Essentially, we were carrying the regulatory risk for them. Yeah. But we weren't really solving a problem. If we didn't exist, people could still get up in the morning and go and get a car loan. Mm-hmm. And my business partner in that, his number one goal was building his, financial,
his wallet, basically.
Yeah.
Because you basically margin hunting at that point. You're trying to push the margins in your favor as much as possible, basically.
Yeah, and as a consequence, the customer wasn't first. Staff definitely weren't first, and I wasn't happy with it, but I didn't have enough say in order to change that. I had a minority stake in that company. And I wish now that the first day I woke up and was like, why am I going in? I'd just gone, I'm not coming in again. Like, here's my notice. I'll go and do something else. Because if you do that every day, and I did it for years, like, you start to then question your own. And I can't remember who the quote was. It was like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, over and over again.
Yeah.
I was like, it was Einstein. It was Einstein.
And I'm like, what am I doing here? You know. So I think the point you just raised, which is if you ever do go into work and you feel completely unvalued and completely pointless,
yeah,
like if you have the actual ability to do so,
yeah, I have to hold my hands up to that as well. I've got, you know, a loving, caring family that put up with my shit, basically, because otherwise there's a means to an end. You know, you'd have to. People have responsibilities. If I had a child, if, you know, anything could be different in this equation, which would mean that I don't have this luxury. So that's why I chose to absolutely take it.
I think that's a huge caveat that needs to be said. I mean, for me, one of the reasons I didn't do it is I do have a 15-year-old. He's just about to turn 15, and some substantial cost to deal with at that portion of my life. And I was like, I can't just quit, because then it puts
everyone else under that pressure. Yeah,
being into and to me, like, it was always, I'd sacrifice myself to make sure he had the best possible outcome. But if you have the option, you know, and have family who you can go and live with, if you know you can't pay bills, just quit and find something that you enjoy. Because now, you know, you often see memes where people are like, I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7, 365 in Web3. I like that. I work a lot more now than I used to, and I used to work 6-7 days a week at times.
Yeah.
The difference is it's a much better quality of work. I'm dealing with people I really enjoy dealing with. I don't have 2.5-3 hours in the car every day, so that those hours I work as well. But the point is, because I really enjoy it, it doesn't feel like work, and it's that old.
It's so important. It's cliche. It's probably gonna go. The same statement will live for the extent of time, but like it really is that important. I think you know, you have to find that love for what you do. And going right back to the start of our convo with the GM stuff, it's like you found a love for it, and look what it's done. You know, where there's love, a beauty can blossom. I don't want to get philosophical on this, but
I will very quickly say two things. The cliche is, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. The other, and on the GMs, I got sidetracked. I think it was your camera issues, which we've
I rugged. I'm sorry.
One of the things that kind of is really warming to me is maybe 5 people, maybe 10 people in this, you know, 200 and something days of doing this have actually commented like, I really enjoy looking at these. I don't care if it's 1 million people or one person. The fact is, actually someone's day has been cheered up by this. Is amazing. And that I didn't get to go to the Philippines, but Best and Amy said that a couple of people in the Philippines were like, where's the guy that says the GMs?
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro, we got, like, at one point, and, you know, God willing, there'll be a time where, you know, majority of the community and people are in Southeast Asia, and I'm telling you, man, like, people are gonna know. They're gonna be like, oh, that's the GM guy. Like, you've esteemed yourself in the community, and it is widely known. I talk to people, and when I'm referencing you, I literally say the GM guy, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what I'm on about now. So like, you know, not to token you as all this guy can do is say GM in a really effective and funny way, but like it, you know, that's. It's a powerful thing, man. Rare, I know we don't want to keep people here forever. I honestly would. Tribally Games, of course, an amazing team now. I've met both Best and Amy. Haven't met Lev yet. In the future, hopefully. And obviously there's an extension of the team as well, and I see those guys doing their thing. TQ, community manager, I've seen her do amazing things on Twitter for a while as well, and a great company, a company that I fully believe in. I know that you guys are under some form of NDA, as Best did disclose on the Ronin Radio show last week. Any just bits of juice that won't make you go to prison?
the Axie NDA is something we're highly respectful of. You know, it's been an absolute pleasure working with them. There's something that we're working on right now that I can't say what it is, because it you know, I don't know if jail is the answer, but it definitely would probably muddy the waters on our working relationship. There's something the community has been asking for quite some time, and I've seen very prominent figures within Axie, Stark, Nix, to name just a couple that I've seen tweet about this very, very recently. There's something that the Axie community wants that we are building. I can't say what it is because, you know, the NDA, but I can't wait to reveal it, because I just know it's something that people have been asking for a while, since day one. So that's on the
an OG request like that.
An OG request. So I think I've answered that without. Oh, hang on, my phone's ringing. It's Psych Out. Oh,
yeah. Stop there.
So yeah, I think I've answered that without breaching the NDA, which is really important to us, because we've been trusted with some really sensitive information over the last couple of years, and I'm hugely respectful. And we even have kind of like, there are secrets that I don't know because they're too secret for anyone outside of tech to need to know. It's like, we're really respectful of that NDA. On the tribally front, we're working on something really cool, really cool. So if you look at tribally and what we've done over the last 2 years, people would think you build custom websites for games. Partly true, but everything we've built to date has been built in such a way that it can be reused. So, you know, any other card-based game in Web 2 or Web 3, we could spin up card explorers for, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what we've actually been doing this last 2 years is proving a concept, and all will become clear on that very, 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 very soon.
Okay.
I can't yet mention exactly what it is that we're building, but when we announce it, I think Lunasians will love it. There's two things about it I think Lunasians will really, really love. The first one is that we're introducing a fair and or data-driven way to reward people who bring value to a community, which is something that, read into that what you will. And the second thing is a place or a method or a means or a system, I think I've been vague enough there, for a community to interact with one another at scale.
Cool.
So that it's, you know, it's all on the community building theme that we've been on since day one. But really, it's kind of taking that to its next natural.
I'm gonna stop you there, because I think, I want to protect you as much as you want to protect yourself. Only thing I would say is we don't have to wait till Christmas, no?
Not that far, no.
Okay, perfect. But listen,
looking at Q4.
Rare, I appreciate, the time you spent. We ran over slightly, just a little bit here, so I appreciate that as well. Your time is valuable. Conversation is fun to have with you, and I'm sure we still need that pint. And I'm telling you, anyone that is in the UK that is in the Axie community or associated with Web3 in any way, shape or form, I'd love to kind of put on some events in maybe in the future. Birmingham could be a center for that, so let's see what we can do. But Rare, Axies, Mr. GM, Tribally Games, legends in the community. Web3 is going to take over the world, so they will be absolute legends in a larger format. I could boost the ego more, I don't know, but it's been a fucking pleasure, mate. I'll tell you that. And yeah, I wish you nothing but success and continued, what would be the word? Continued pioneering. You guys are pioneers when it comes to bringing products to life and the quality of them as well. So I wish you nothing but success with that, man. It's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. And we definitely do need to have a beer at some point in the near future. I think Stark's going to fly in from France, especially.
Yeah. Get that Starkage over here as well. I love him to death. I was trying to get hold of him yesterday to build more stuff on Ronin Radio, but he was grinding the Epic era. I did not get a response for 5 hours and yeah, I mean, it doesn't concern you here, but Stark, I love you, but fuck you for that.
He is putting in some shifts right now.
Bro, he did a 10-hour stream yesterday till 4 a.m. in the morning his time, so crazy.
We like Stark a lot at Tribally, and
he's incredibly intelligent as well. Incredibly intelligent, yeah. Facts. All right then, Rare, Much love. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the sun till like 9 p.m, which is really confusing now. It happens in the UK. It's weird, but yeah, much love and pint in the future. Cheers for your time.
Appreciate your kind words.
Stay safe.
Thank you for having me on.
Say, I'm not ending the call. I'm just gonna end the recording. But no, thank you, bro. Seriously.